Let's get started. Good morning, Hickory Sunrise.
Good morning.
Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Give Nancy Toy a minute to get here, Steve.
Why?
So she can be in on the prayer.
Oh, okay. Be covered.
A brief prayer.
I mean, if there's anybody in this room that I want to have God's hands on her hands, it's her.
Okay.
I don't think you need
Do I need to
reserve
fetch a
for
chair
that.
for something? More chair?
Well, actually, yes, she has been a help in some instances. She's also GYN.
Save
OB
the seat just for you.
is first, but GYN is real. Okay, Steve, please.
Let's pray. Lord God, thank you for this day, Lord. Thank you for this opportunity to come together. Father, we thank you for the people in this area, Lord, whose hearts is for those who are less fortunate. We thank you for the service of both sides. We ask you to bless this club, bless our speaker this morning. We thank you. And Lord, continue to bless and cover our healthcare workers, Lord, first responders. In Jesus' name.
Amen.
Question real quick. Is that it right there? Yep. Is it open? Yep.
Go right ahead.
Okay. I'll see who I can embarrass with this. I want to catch him because I think he's going to have a good story. Okay.
What?
That's got 2/3 of the room. That's not bad.
Gotta leave early. Gonna disappoint eight.
Don't want to disappoint the dentist. I know, sure. Why don't you just take them out and send them? You don't have to.
Why don't you just...
I think we should find him $1 to start something.
I was gonna say in the field, in the field.
I'm listening. Hadn't seen you in a while.
Did you tell him while you're going to the dentist, he's getting gold teeth. He's getting some gold teeth put in.
Right.
Get me grilled.
When he stepped down, he was going to have a diamond inset.
Phil, yes, food. Oh, yes. That's actually,
Oh, I gotta give it up now.
I may have to borrow it back, but I didn't have some
Didn't
frack.
that send him?
Yeah.
This is what, to feed Nancy's dog now?
This is food, yes.
Oh, all of a sudden.
Yeah, all of a
You ain't
sudden.
got nothing to say.
See, it ain't so.
Ha!
Ah,
Just so happens.
It's all part of fellowship, and it feels good.
doesn't feel that good.
My wife's just getting off work, so.
Okay, you want to introduce your guest?
Oh, okay, you're not gonna do Phil first? I mean,
Go ahead, yeah, that's fine.
Phil's World? Isn't that what the way?
Man, I was kind of hoping that, you know, I wouldn't have to be nasty. So good morning, Mr. Sunrise. At this time, once again, for the obtrusive finding to go on. So we've got a little bit of dissension going on here between club members. Seems,
No, there's only one.
Ha!
Don't point that old crooked finger over
I think it is time for a fine from each of you.
Uh-oh.
I'm sorry, you know,
Just
I was hoping we might
general
get away without
disruption.
this, but
I just paid my last.
pay your
one to
last
the
off.
dog.
I tell you what, because I feel so bad about fining 2 fine club members, I'll pay your fine for you.
Thank you.
As you all know, it is It is customary for the Sergeant at Arms to ask questions out of the Rotarian magazine. I was reviewing that, but I decided that today would be a good day to escape from that, because frankly, I didn't find the topic that was that interesting to me that I could then go on, wax on eloquently for hours after reading it. So I'm going to skip that, but I want you to know that I am on the prowl. So when your Rotarian magazine comes, be sure and read through all those things, because there are good articles in there, and it is important information. I don't really have anything else to do this morning to be obtrusive as the Sergeant at Arms. So I'm going to just turn it back to you.
Very good.
Before my voice gives out. Allergies, man, I don't know what's wrong with me.
All right, thank you. Somebody has already met Mark Raymond. Is how we came to know each other is where you came down the street a couple of years ago. I was mowing the yard and you asked me to mow his grass or mow his grass. I'm his grass mower yard guy. So and we talk quite a bit when I'm out there. And so during the course of the past couple of years, I've learned that he's a retired U.S. Navy diver and also works on these, I don't like to call them model ships because you always get this idea of plastics. I want him to be able to talk about a little bit your experiences in the Navy as a diver. The first thing that comes to mind is that movie with Robert De Niro and Cuba
Men of Honor?
Jr. Yeah, that one. That's the first thing that came to mind when And so today I wanted to share some of that, and also this art of this fine art, and you'll see an example of a partially built example today. But we've got military folks in the group, and those of us who also love and support military, even though we did not serve. So Mark Raymond, I'll let you talk about where you're from a little bit,
okay,
and maybe your wife and your service in the Navy, and then also your hobby in doing this. This is something that kids are, folks, this needs to be passed on. It's something that's I would never be able to do. I would have it tore up in 5 minutes. I'm just, but you'll learn that there's a lot of great detail that goes into this hobby. And so I know it's a love for you because I've seen all of these ships, most all of them in these pictures.
Yeah, I show him every time he shows up.
Yeah, every time I come, I'll see a different stage of a different ship. So even though they're relegated to your basement at this point, I thought it would be beneficial for the club to hear not only your experiences, which are quite unique, but also this talent that you're working on with that. So please, for the next 20 minutes or so, I'd like to
Okay.
Mark, if you will give me your email address, the video of the club meeting gets posted on YouTube, and I'll be
Okay.
glad to let you have access to it.
Okay, cool.
And it's informal, so
Okay.
you have the floor.
My name's Mark Raymond. I came from Panama City, Florida 2 years ago. Hurricane Michael destroyed my neighborhood, the island right over my house. And I know you from somewhere, and I just don't know where, and it's killing me. Do you work somewhere, or, sir?
Kelly?
Kelly,
I work for a company called Auction Edge. I do software development.
You go to the gym in Conover?
No.
No? Okay. You just look really familiar. Maybe I've just seen you somewhere.
Maybe over the Y. I used to go over there.
Maybe I was there for a little bit. Okay. Okay, I'm sorry. So I was stationed in Panama City as Navy recruiter. That was the end of my career. And like I said, the eye came over our house, and we had been wanting to move to North Carolina for a long time. We tried to get into Morganton because we wanted to be right at the foothills, but there was no houses available worth buying. So we stayed in Conover. We found a house in Conover and lived there. I did 21 years. Went in 1983. Didn't do real good on my ASVAB in high school. I was one of those just laid back and didn't do a whole lot. So I took the bottom job as a bosun's mate and did my first 3 years on an amphibious ship with Marines, and I hated every day of the Navy, and I just hated it. The USS Sumter out of Mill Creek, Virginia.
I was on an APA ship.
Oh, okay. So I was a brat kid, got out of boot camp, went home, smoked some weed, and went to A school as a signalman, and I got busted on a urinalysis. And my original ship was USS Midway, and I was a signalman A school, and went to Admiral's Mast, and they took it from me, took everything from me, took a rank, my pay,
Been there too.
restriction, all that. And I just wanted out. I hated the Navy so much. I was still a brat kid. I hadn't changed at all. And during Admiral's Mass, the Admiral asked me, is there anything you want to say before I pass down my judgment? And I said, no, just don't kick me out. And he said, oh, no, shipmate, we're not going to kick you out. See, nowadays they kick you right out. You don't have a chance. Back in the 80s, they didn't do that. They just took everything from you and put you on a crappy ship. So he did all that. He put me on a crappy ship and did my 3 years, got out, and then I stayed in Norfolk, Virginia, and I worked at Norfolk Naval Shipyard, which is one of the biggest shipbuilding ports in the U.S., and I hated it, so I went back in the Navy. Changed my attitude after 7 months, and went on one of the first Navy co-ed ships, the USS Yellowstone. So this was 1987. I was on there for a couple of years, and they had an application for somebody to drive an admiral's barge, which is in the Navy we call them a coxswain. You guys probably call them captains or pilots. So I applied, and there was 18 of us, and I got the job. So I drove a captain's barge as an E5 for 6 months. Did that, went back to the ship, was going to go to SEAL school, so I was ready to get ready for BUDS, and I was all prepared, trained for a year, and BUDS shut down. They had a major accident with a SEAL. The SEAL died during that time in school, and they shut it down, and I was like, well, I don't know what I want to do now. And the Navy diving officer talked me into being a Navy diver. And I was like, okay, I'll do that. So I went to dive school instead. And I did that, and did that for 10 years of my career. So that when I went there, I was at my 5-year mark, hit my 15-year mark. Went out of Navy diving, went to be a Navy recruiter, did that for my last 5 years, and that was it. And I ended it my career. I was in Norfolk, Virginia for 13 years. Gadsden, Alabama for 2 years recruiting, then Panama City the rest of my career. And I stayed down there for 18 years. Men of Honor, the movie, the residential expert for that, his name is Master Diver Radecki. He died a few years back. He was my master diver in dive school. He was the residential expert for Robert De Niro. And he sent me all these signed photos, so I get like 5 photos signed by Robert De Niro directly to me from the movie. So that was kind of cool. I got out of the Navy and ran an at-risk youth program as a seamanship instructor and boating instructor, aquatics, stuff like that. Did that for a couple years. Quit that and ran a gym for 5 years and got out from that. And what did I do after that? Drawing a blank. Oh, I ran a military warehouse where when you move from point to point and all your goods get stored, my warehouse stored all your goods until you got into town and we delivered them. And I retired at the age of 50, 5 years ago, and that is it. Some of the highlights of my career, I did the body job on TWA Flight 800. I was out there for 4 months straight. That was a terrible, terrible job. Don't ever want to do anything like that again. I don't know if you all know about TWA. That was the flight that went off of East Merchants in New York, went straight up and came straight back down from a fuselage explosive, and everybody lost their lives. So I had to pick them up. 110 feet of water is basically what we dove on air, mostly all air. We had EOD, SEALs, big platforms out there diving every single day for 4 months, trying to pick up every single piece of scrap on the ocean floor. And did that, did a couple F-14 jobs off of Florida, and salvage, husbandry, did it all as a diver. Just didn't want to do it anymore. So when I became a Navy recruiter, I only did that for I wanted to do it for just a two-year tour. I ended up doing good at it, so they changed me over to NC. So I was originally a bosun's mate, and I retired as an NC chief. So I was a bosun mate chief as a diver, and changed my rate my 15 years in. Any other Navy guys here? Just you,
Richard.
Navy Brad.
Okay.
Real Navy,
Okay. And like I said, I build these things, and this is what I do.
Quick question about the airplane dive.
Uh-huh.
Do they separate body recovery from material recovery?
No, it's all done at the same time. So the FBI and the NTSB is out there, and they have a team that's doing the body recovery with the ROV, and they have a big basket that's about as big as this square that goes down, and 2 divers are down there filling it up with debris or tying into it if it's pieces of wing or whatever. And at the same time, they'll have scuba divers doing bounce dives, body recoveries, and they have a psychologist out there to talk to you before you go down, because you're picking up, I hate to say this, you're picking up body parts. There's very, very few intact bodies left. We got there 5 days later, so the SEALs and one of the other ships had already got the bodies that floated, and most of the ones that were intact. So the rest, we were fighting off crabs and sharks and everything else down there that was
Scavengers.
It was terrible. It's the worst thing you could ever imagine in your life. But I did okay with it until we had the award ceremony a couple months later, when all it was a French class. I don't know if y'all knew that. The bulk of it was a French class. All those kids from school lost their lives, and the teachers. So they came to Norfolk and did an awards banquet for us, and the FBI. That's when most of us that did a lot of dives got medals for that, and that's when it hit me. We all went out drinking and celebrating, with the parents and the teachers, and they gave us a yearbook of the kids. So when I got home, that's when I kind of broke down, because you're connecting the faces of these poor children to what you were picking up on the bottom of the ocean. So it's a little emotional sometimes.
Amen.
That crash was caused by fuel tank explosion.
Yeah,
Center fuel
something
tank.
in the middle sparked. Yeah, and they were trying to say it was a missile.
Oh yeah.
But you got to think to yourself, there's 200 some odd people on a ship, guys and girls on a ship. How could every single one of them keep it quiet? You know what I mean? Because they were saying it came from a frigate.
Right.
And there's no way. I mean, somebody's going to write home and say, "You ain't going to believe what happened last night. We accidentally fired off a missile." Now there's no way. But they ruled it. They just took that thing down, by the way. It's been inside a warehouse, all glued together, so they could see where the explosion came from, and they just took that down a couple months ago. So it's been sitting there the whole time. As they record every single piece on the plane. I never knew this has a serial number. I mean, every scrap piece of metal, everything. So they just put that whole thing together and glue and tape, whatever else they use. Yeah, it was pretty neat when they did that. So that's pretty much the highlight of my Navy career. These things here are it's crazy, because I just started getting on Facebook pages of shipbuilding last year. I didn't really know there was anybody doing it, and it really blew my mind how many people are doing this. Not a lot of guys in the U.S. It's not a big U.S. thing. It's really huge in England and Britain and the Netherlands and Germany, and these guys are just expert builders. I mean, I don't really like to cut too many corners, and I consider myself a novice builder. These guys are professionals. These are the ones you see in museums, maritime museums, that you just say, "Oh wow, I just cannot believe that these guys could do this much rigging," And the rigging is the hardest part, but it's the part I love the best. This one here is my first expert level ship, and it's the first time I coppered the bottom. So this is all individual little pieces that I put rivets, simulated rivets in, and you have to glue them all down. And like I said, everything is laid, all the planking. This comes as, this one here I got from Spain, and it comes as nothing. It just gives you all the wood and directions on how to do it, and you cut and you steam and you do everything. I mean, the basic kits, they do a lot of the cutting for you, and all you gotta do is glue it together and stain it and all that. When you get to this level, it is pretty much, you have to do everything.
But their cutting is basically just sizing pieces, right?
Yeah, it's laser cuts on a sheet, and they come in a big box, and everything's in there for you. Sometimes they have pieces missing. You have to tell them that it's missing. Their QA is not the best in the world, but yeah, it's a fun hobby. So that's my afternoons. I usually hit the gym in the morning and piddle around the house and do that for 3 or 4 hours in the afternoon. My wife's a nurse. She works at the Conover nursing home there, and she's been there since we've been here. And I got 2 kids that live in Tampa. One just got out of the Navy, and one is she just got a license to do nails and all that stuff. I don't really know the name of it.
What time period does that particular boat there, I guess it's a boat or a ship?
It's a ship.
It's a ship.
Yeah.
What time period will it come from? What will you call it? What's the style of the rigging?
This one here is an 1800, and it is a brig. It's called the U.S. Brig Siren, S-Y-R-E-N. I've done the Mayflower, that's an 1800 ship, and the San Francisco 2, and the pictures that you saw, also there's I have the King of the Mississippi, which was a riverboat, and my next one's going to be a seagoing tug.
What's, on scale, what's the width and length of that in feet?
Inches?
No, I mean, if it were a real boat, what would
gosh,
it be?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I mean, I know the scale on this one is 150, and it's 33 inches long. I'm not sure about the beam, but the height of the mast will end up being about like this high when I'm done. And I just finished, yesterday I just got done finishing building the bow, and I will start the innards today. So I'll start putting all the cleats, the little cleats, and all the things you have to tie your belaying ropes to. And
Will it be square rigged?
Everything's done with exact knots. All of my knotting is done with clove hitches, square knots, Beckett bends,
Details.
bowlines. Everything
Yeah.
is true to life. I keep it all exactly the way the ship is supposed to have been done.
And the sail shape will be square?
Depends. The
Lantine,
front,
what?
the front ones are usually on the jib, are usually triangle.
Triangles.
And then all the rest are squared off. Yeah.
So what was the first ship you did? What sparked your interest in doing?
When I was on the I said this earlier, when I was on the Yellowstone, a vendor came on board, and I used to build plastic ships when I was younger. I'm sorry, plastic cars. When we all did model cars, GTOs and Chevelles and all that. And I did a lot of those. I mean, that's the only thing I ever did. And my mother actually had me in a club where I got a new kit every single month. And as you know, I was like 12, 13, 14 years old before I started really getting into sports and stuff. And so he was a vendor on board, and I saw one, and I bought it, and I built it when I was on the med cruise overseas. And I brought it home and put it down, finished it a little bit while longer, and then I sold it to somebody, and I wish I would never have gotten rid of it because that was my first one. But now I've kept all of them, and that's when I started getting into it. But that was a novice kit, and it goes novice, intermediate, advanced, and expert.
Do you recall the name of the ship that you did?
Yeah, it was the Cuddy Sark.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was my first one. Yeah. So this will take me about a year to build. About 4 hours a day, almost every day, pretty much. So you do the math. I mean, it's a few hundred hours you put into these. But I take my time. I don't rush them. But everything is all the planking, all my decking, everything is laid individually. And I just put my final coat of polyurethane on it last night. Also, I don't use shiny polyurethane. I use a satin. Because back in the old days, ships weren't shiny, wood wasn't shiny. Everything was a dull matte. Except on the whole, they used marrow for their anti-corrosion. And they didn't have zincs back then like we have now. So yeah, that's pretty much how I got into it. And it's a fun hobby. It really surprised me how many people are actually doing it. It's crazy because I have posts all day long. People showing their builds on all these different sites.
Why would that ship have been copper clad? Why would they have originally made the full-size ship a copper clad hull?
I don't know why they decided to go from Marrow to doing that. There's not a lot of them. It wasn't like every ship at one time. It was just probably who could afford it. I mean, Marrow, they just slap it on. I mean, that's meticulous work. It took a craftsman, all the rivets they had to put in each one of those planks. Or each one of those pieces, But,
Amen.
Yeah.
How many ships have you done? Do you know the number?
5, 6.
Okay.
This is number 6. But I calculated my wall space, and I have enough room for about 21. That should take me to about 65 years old. That's what my wife's like. How many are you gonna do? I said, well, I'm gonna let you know here in a few minutes when I figure out how many shelves I'm gonna put out down here, and I'm gonna have to angle them on the shelves because right now I have them facing. You can see in the pictures they're facing sideways. But eventually I'll have to angle them because I have a list of ships I want to do. I want to do the Constitution is on my list. The America's on my list. I've already done the Mayflower. And Mayflower's fun. That was a tallow hole. That was a white hole. And I wish my pictures would have been color, but I didn't have any color in my printer. I didn't know until my wife told me last night.
Will you do the Cuddy Circ again?
No, I won't return. No, I mean, I'm not gonna say no for sure. You never know. I mean, you know, I try to look for sales, but these things are not the cheapest in the world. You know, kit like this, the bigger ones, when I get to a bigger ship, which is I can't remember the name of it right now, but it'll probably be about like that. It's gonna be a really big one, and that's probably about a $700 kit. You know, that right there is probably, I think I paid on sale $260 for that one. But if you calculate the amount of hobby time, you know, for what you paid, it's really worth it. It's the tools that you gotta buy. I mean, there's so many tools you need, it's just ridiculous. And I've got them over the years, but you know, thank God places like Harbor Freight are around because they have cheap tools that I can get and they all work fine. And between them and Walmart, with all the threads and all that I need, most of them are included in the kit as far as the threads and the yarns, but I do a lot of my own seizing, because all the eye splices, they're simulated eye splices. I don't know if you know what an eye splice is, but on a big ship's ropes, the strands are pulled apart and they're tucked into the rope to make it an eye splice. There are guys that do that. I don't do that, but I do very tight seizings with really, really small thread. And I use a magnifying glass to do it. And I run all my threads through beeswax, so they're easier to handle, otherwise they're slippery or they get clingy. So everything's done with beeswax threading, and that's pretty much it as far as that goes.
It gives the thread more tensile too, doesn't it?
Yeah, and plus you don't have those little hairs hanging off it, you know, and I think of what else in the Navy I've done. That was really pretty much my Navy career. I would do it all over again. My 21 years was fun. My wife was very fortunate. She met me during my recruiting years and not during my Navy ship time where I had to be gone all the time. So she never experienced me being at sea for 7 months long. You know, the longest I was gone was when I had to run to a recruiting station that I was running and stay overnight there. Because I ran 5 recruiting stations. I ran Andalusia Enterprise, Pace, Fort Walton Beach, and Panama City. So I had to travel between all those recruitment stations every couple of days to make sure they were doing their jobs. So I would stay overnight, and that was really the only time I stayed overnight was when I had to go do that, or when I had to go to Montgomery at the recruiting district. So
Who typically gets recruiting assignments? E5s and up, or what?
no, they actually no, there's E4s, petty officer, any petty officer and above. If you volunteer, they love you. But most of the time, there's a lot of times where they don't have any openings for you, and the only thing you have is either go be a recruit company commander at boot camp, or you go recruiting. That's it. It depends on your rate and how, you know, what is in demand in your rate, you know. As far as a Navy diver, SEALs, and EOD are all spec war, and they're never forced to go recruiting because there's so many openings for them, so many jobs for them to do all around the U.S. But you know, ships can only, and we don't ride very many ships, and ships can only hold so many people. So if the ships are all at full, and your rate, you go call for a new command, they'll send you recruiting.
Yeah.
You know?
In service, the person who tries to get you to re-up, is that also a recruiting classification?
No, the person tries to get you re-up. It's really your decision. You know, when you get to your a year out, it's really you start talking to the I guess your command counselor, which is is the one on the ship who really does all the who you're talking to about your next command.
Like your HR guy.
Right, yeah. So, you know, he's the one who really is he or she is the one who's going to tell you, you know, try and negotiate where you're going to go. Because you don't have a lot of wiggle room. You know, you may have like 5 choices, maybe if you're lucky, you know. But like I said, it all depends on your rate and what your job is.
You said you served on the first co-ed platform. Mm-hmm. Was that unique at the time, or did they have their act? Oh, there you go.
I met my first wife on there. Yeah, it was definitely unique because I came from a ship that had Marines on it. It was an amphibious ship. So going from a ship of Marines to a co-ed ship was quite different. Yeah, it had its challenges, but I loved it. That was my favorite ship.
How did they refit the ship to accommodate the females?
I don't know. They did it before I got there.
Okay.
Yep, they had been co-ed, I think, a year prior to me. And the first co-ed ship before that was an oiler. I can't remember the name of it. So they, you know.
So they had separate health facilities and separate sleeping.
Berths, bathrooms, all that. Yeah, yeah. But we had a lot of fun. I mean, we never had no real problems, and it was kept pretty professional. It really was, believe it or not.
Did they have medical staff on board for the females?
Oh yeah. Well, medical for everybody.
Yeah, but I mean, there are some specialties that only relate to females.
No.
Probably went to shore for that.
Yeah, you mean like a gynecologist?
Yeah.
No.
That'd be on shore.
Yeah, they would pull in for that. Yeah, if there was a major problem with that, then they would pull into a port. And remember, back in the 80s and 90s, ships pulled into port for quite a long time. You would be in port for 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Nowadays, they don't pull in any ports hardly because nobody likes us. None of the countries like us.
Don't want you
want
there.
us in their ports.
Don't want you there.
You know, they just don't want us there anymore. You know, I hate to say that, but that's just how it is. You know, we used to pull into Israel. We would be in Haifa for 2 weeks. Now, no way. We would never be there. You know, we would never stay there. Spain, Italy, and France are really good at bringing us in, and back then they were. You know, but it's just hard to say now. You know?
I think our experience with the suicide barges too hasn't helped our disposition for parking any.
No. Well, those were fun med cruises. I mean, those days. See, back then, the ship would pull in. They would have a meeting, tell you places you were not allowed to go, and then you could leave on your own. You could take off and be gone all day. If you had an overnight pass, get on a train. You could take a train out to Nice, stay out there all night long, get a cheap hotel room. Nowadays, you have to have 3 people. There's no more overnight liberty. All 3 of you have to leave and come back together. It's crazy. They just don't let you do anything overseas because it's scary nowadays. You never know what's going to happen. You know.
So you might explain the peculiar relationship between the Navy and the Marines to folks who aren't savvy to this.
I love Marine Corps because my father was a Marine. I lost my dad a couple years ago, and his 80th birthday, I built him a shadow box of his Marine Corps time, and I gave it to him as his 80th birthday. And the Marines fall under the Department of the Navy. It's when you get a medal, it's Navy and Marine Corps Navy Commendation Medal or Navy and Marine Corps. And you see Navy comes first. You see that, right? Navy and Marine Corps. But they ride our ships, and they've always said, I don't know if you ever watched A Few Good Men. Remember that? Where he says, "Oh, we love you, Navy boys. Whenever we need to get somewhere, you get us there." You know, Kiefer Sutherland says that. And that's true. I mean, that's what we do. We board the Marines. We bring all their gear. We take them overseas. We drop them off. They do their thing. We come back and get them, and then we bring them back. And that's mostly almost all amphibious ships do that. And I was actually on the amphibious ship that pulls up to a causeway. The bow comes down, and all the Marines offload all their gear, and then we come back and get them later. So, but it's a good relationship. I mean, I don't think we really have any major problems. You know what I mean? Not that you would have this as much on if Army or Air Force was on board, you know. But there's fights and there's arguments, but you know, probably not anymore because nowadays in the Navy fights, anything like that, you get kicked out fast. You don't play anymore. Failing PRTs, I believe they get rid of you right away. Failing your PT test and all that. So I just it's changed a lot. Yeah.
Launching from a submarine underwater, is that an uncommon thing, or did you get involved in that?
No, I've dove on them. I've worked on, but I'd never want to be on a sub. No, that's usually a peculiar type of person and peculiar type of duty. You know what I mean? You know what you're getting into when you go to MEPS and you sign up, and you are signing up for submarine duty. So you know, it's not like in boot camp. You graduate boot camp, they go, "Hey, we'll send you to a sub." That's all pretty much prearranged prior to getting into boot camp. But I've dove on subs and worked on them, and I've been inside, but I've never rode one before.
Okay.
No, that's like a lot of nukes ride submarines if they have a nuclear submarine and things like that.
Okay.
I don't know too much about them. We just surface doesn't really we don't really pertain too much to the submarine community. It's a whole different entity.
Refueling nukes like up at Groton, that's all dry land stuff. You don't get involved in that?
Nope, nope, nope. Never did anything with nukes. Never dove around them or anything.
I saw that they've got a new class of submarines that are powered by nuclear energy. They said that they never have to be refueled.
Never.
Oh,
The nuclear energy will last as long as the submarine, 50 years or
Yep.
whatever.
Same as a nuclear plant, right? I mean, they're self-sustained. Yeah, they're creative. They can stay under for like forever. It's amazing. Yeah.
Outside the TWA dive, what's the strangest thing you've seen dive?
The strangest thing I've seen.
That you can talk about.
Well, it's kind of Navy related, but it's off-duty Navy related. We went to Andros Island to do to work on some Coast Guard navigational aids, and some local divers asked us if we wanted to do a really cool dive when we were off. We said, yeah, that's fine. We'd love to do it, and we did the continental shelf dive. What that is it's a really quick dive. You only have like 5 minutes because it was at 170 feet. You get to be really careful because that's when some of your ailments start really kicking in, nitrogen narcosis, things like that. So we did what was called a clump dive, where you put a rope down to the bottom on a heavy clump, you tie it off to the boat, and you go down as fast as you can. So basically, we went down this clump all the way down to 170, and you're at the edge of a cliff. And you can actually look over the cliff and then go straight down to 3,000, 5,000 feet.
oh, geez.
That was the craziest dive I've ever done. I mean, just goosebumps all over your body, because you look and you think to yourself, because you're at 170 feet, you're looking up, and the water is so clear, you can almost see the bottom of the boat. And you're looking down, and it's just the abyss of blackness.
Did you feel it pulling you?
No, there was no pull, no current. It was creepy, because it's nothing but black. So you just wonder what lives down there, I mean, 3,000 feet is just crazy.
I've dived in the Monterey Bay Canyon, and it goes down like that pretty sharp, and on the edge you can almost feel it pulling you.
Really?
You get deep, like you can feel it, because it's going down pretty sharp. Like
Wow.
that.
No, I don't remember feeling the pull, but
You're like, oh, I better not go
Yeah.
in that hole.
and then when we came up, the divers made us eat. They have a tradition, if you do the continental shelf dive, you have to eat live conch. Oh my God, it was awful, man. I'm not a big eater to begin with. I don't like a lot of sushi and stuff.
Chewing leather.
So eating that was it was worse than Chief's initiation.
Oh, God.
Yeah, you dive down around Key West, you can just snorkel around,
Right to the coral.
and all of a sudden, it'll disappear on you.
Oh yeah, yeah. The cool thing about Key West is that when you're coming into Key West on both sides, you can just walk off the beach and you're in some beautiful coral, 30, 40 feet out.
Yeah.
Some of the most prettiest coral you'll ever see, Or around the whole island, around the whole area.
Yeah,
Well, not the
yeah.
island, but the whole area there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's an island.
Yeah, that's right, it is. Yeah, it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Other questions?
That's pretty much it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Here, I'll bring this around, show you all. Show you the bow I did. So that's what I finished last night. Was building that.
We could somehow
Cannon doors.
get more detail-oriented young people. After like 5 minutes, I would stick a pencil in my head. There's no way I could do it.
Yeah.
But there could be, passes on to young people that might be more detailed, more,
Yeah. Meticulous.
yeah.
These here, the big ones I've been myself.
So I wish he could somehow display them so people could see the work. It's amazing.
Well, that's why I was asking if there was a public display. It would be great.
Yeah.
Right. And this will patina over time. This will patina, and in the next couple of years it'll start turning green. It'll look really, really pretty. It'll look like real single.
Verdigris. Yeah.
Everything else is just raw wood, and it tells you all the little nail holes how to simulate, and all the decking is individual planks. Yeah. This is what I did last night. This is my figurehead. This,
The carpet, or did
no, that was metal, but I had to bend all this and put this together. All these little pieces I had to glue in. See it? See it okay?
Yeah, I get the, every time I'm out there.
It'll have
I
real
get
anchors hanging
updates
down.
on what he's
Like I
working
said, I'll
on.
start
and
the innards tonight.
I just,
All the little cleats and all
fascinates me.
that.
I mean, just thinking of,
Yes, sir.
with the microphone,
Nail head to
the
nail head,
thing.
so
I mean, I'm
from
already
there
like,
to there is one
you know,
side.
there's no way. I mean, I have, you know, some people have to just enjoy that. And I'm like, I just get the willies just thinking of him having to just tie the little, you know.
This one.
that one?
Yeah, this one's gonna be my favorite because it's gonna take the most time.
With that copper, it's so
But the,
pretty.
yeah,
The copy was actually a roll of tape, and I made a jig to put the rivets in there where I ran it along the tape.
Things like that, building airplanes, I would have
Exact same,
wood.
and you overlay
We
each
have
one
carved
over the
the
next
same.
one.
Yep,
So I
yep.
started from
It
the
was
bottom and worked my way up.
I just
and
didn't have
overlaid them as I
time for it.
went.
I had too much other things to do and it was too time.
well, it's not the time consuming for me. It's just that the way I'm made up.
I had to cut
I'm
those
like,
and cut those
that's like
myself.
sticking me in a box.
It's a sheet
I
of
mean,
glass.
I'm
Now,
like,
they-
oh,
they
you know,
give
there's
you
no
some,
way. I mean,
I don't like the ones they
totally.
They just go
I could not do that.
So
It
it's
just,
my brother actually
Can't
uses.
focus long.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like,
I made my
I mean, he tells me, you know, I just spent 4
Yeah, I did
hours
all
doing,
that,
you
and,
know, 2 littles, and I'm
they
just
do it
like,
differently with
you got,
their
you know.
pens.
And
I
it's no
actually
sweat, you
insert my
know.
pins inside
It's great
the
that the
groove.
world's
So I
different,
push
you know, with
it
different
in,
people, but and
and
to me, it's just
until
fascinating.
it gets
I
inside the
would
groove, and I
wish
wrap
some
the
way
actual
that he could
top
connect with,
of
yeah, I was telling Bob, some young people
So I
who
do
might
things-
have a
sometimes they
penchant
do
for
what they do.
doing this type of art,
try to
because
keep
this needs to be
as
passed
close
on.
to
It's
what the,
fascinating
original
stuff
build
that he does with that, to me.
But the insides will be, everything will be, like, he went with the wood, and I did the brass. I do like the brass. This was
Yeah, some
original
of the
wood,
finish is
and
just
that was wood,
absolutely.
and I made a little brass, because
You
I'm
look at
brass.
the tiny,
ships.
the
And all
tiny
his
cannons
little
and
eyes
the
are
tiny,
black.
all the
But I'm
just
making
tiny
mine.
stuff. Dude,
So,
I mean,
the same shit, how much does it look like yours? Is there enough detail difference from what you put into it?
It would be nominal. You'd have to really look. Like his hinges will be different, and he may use a different type of black. He may use a different type of stain. I use mid black gold and oak. That's what the original gold wanted to use, was gold and oak color. But he might use a dark stain. You know, like my second ship I did, the San Francisco too, is all really dark and it's really pretty, and it came out really nice.
Will you have cannons?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the cannons will all be built. They'll have all the ropes that stop them from going backwards and all that.
yeah, I mean, it's the
Yeah.
details.
Yeah, that'll be hard. That's gonna be hard drilling all those little holes to get the cat eyes in there.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'll have 2 cannons back here, and every cannon here will be up for
Are your cannons cast or turned?
They're actually I think they're aluminum. The
Casting?
cannon itself, yeah, I think they're cast aluminum.
Okay.
And
Do you have suppliers that'll make you like an anchor chain or something like that?
I make my own chain. I do my
You're
own chain.
kidding.
Yep. They give you, it all depends. Some of them are ropes. Back then they had rope. They had
Yeah.
ropes. Some of them are chains. Some of them are cable. If they're cable, I will use what they supply because I don't have an access to that, and they usually have something good. This one here is going to be a rope, so I'll use their, as they call a hauser. I'll use their hauser. On these here, no, I won't have ropes, but on these lids here, I will. Yeah, because you know you'll have ropes coming down. Those will just pull it in. You know what I mean?
When you do a capstan, does it turn?
No, the capstans will stay intact. Yeah.
What are you masking the sails and all that? What material?
That's real cloth. Oh yeah. All my masks are real cloth. I have to sew those myself. I have to sew a bolt rope all the way around. So I do that by hand. All my sails by hand. Do you want to see it?
That's what,
Okay.
Yeah, you know, my last kit I did, they sent me the wrong sails. And they were in Spain. It's called a company called Artsania Latina. And I called them and said, I got the wrong sales guys, because they wouldn't answer my emails. And Spanish guy's on talking the best English he can. And I told him what kid it was. He said he'll send them out. It'll take me like 3 weeks. And I said, you know what? Don't even worry about it. What I did was I recut them and I restitched them the way I want them done. And I got it as close as I could, because thankfully they were bigger sales for a bigger ship. And what I did was I just ran a cut around them. I folded it over and used that miracle stitch stuff, the cloth stuff, you know what I'm talking about?
Binding
It's an
tape.
iron.
Binding tape.
Yeah. So I cut a really thin strip, stuck it in the fold, glued that down with an iron, and then I ran a stitch all the way around for each one of those. And it took me, oh my gosh, it took me like a month to do just the sails alone. Because you know you don't want your stitching. You know, I just do hand over hand stitching. You didn't want one to be this wide and one to be that wide. You know, so I tried to mark it as I went along, and then erased it later, and it came right off. So yeah, it worked out well. That's it.
Thank you very much. All right.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Okay.
Things we think, say,
Say or
and
do. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Bing!